What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Duties Daggers, where today we are checking out a pretty popular knife. This is made here in the United States, small batch, similar to knives like Oz Machine Company, Rosie, the Brown Knives Cortex XL, just to name a few that I own, and the SPK LAMIA, which is this one right here. Made by one guy in his shop with a CNC machine and some other machines. They're expensive. They're right in the price range of a Rosie, maybe a little less, maybe right around the same, I think, maybe. I don't know, I'm not sure. This is not mine, it's a loaner. I have not purchased one of these, although after handling this, I'm pretty sure that I want one of these sometime in my collection. Because it's very cool. So I know that this pattern on the handle they call the Nature Grip. That's what he calls it, and I really very much like it. Kind of reminds me of like a DNA strand, a little bit. Very cool. So you have these horizontal lines, and then you also have fainter kind of, I don't know, 45-degree from those horizontal ones. You have lines going this way too, smaller micro lines. It looks great. It's on the lock side too. The clip even has a little bit of texture on it. To SK there. I'm not sure why it's SPK and then sometimes it's just SK. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just SK. You know, I really don't know. It comes in a generic taco and does not even come with a certificate of authenticity. It doesn't come with anything. Just a couple stickers in the knife, which is interesting. He also does not number his knives. I found that to be odd. You know, you almost always get a certificate of authenticity with the knife, at least. You know, even Koenig, they don't number their knives, but they put the batch number and the generation number, and you get a COA. And, you know, Rosie's are numbered, my Rask is numbered, my Cortex XL is numbered. Usually that's the thing, but not with this, not with him. But whatever, you know, it's, I guess he figures it's a good enough knife that it doesn't need that stuff. I think it would be cool. I really like it when knives are numbered. It makes them a little more personable, you know, makes it a little more yours. But that's okay. Let's flick this thing out and take a look. I really like the design. I really like it. Let's talk about it. So the blade bevel is machined. You can see those lines in it where the end mill, you know, came and took away material line after line after line. I think that's really neat. You don't see it too much. Even if a bevel has been machined, a lot of times they'll smooth those out, take those lines away. I think it's kind of cool though. It's just unique and a little different. I think it's pretty neat. I like to think about how many times that end mill had to run across the blade. Just kind of cool to see that. I don't know if I'm making sense. I think it's just cool to see that. Titanium, obviously, handle, frame lock, titanium milled clip. I think this one, yeah, there's no marking. Oh, wait, no, Elmax. So there is one marking, the blade steel, Elmax. EMX. I'm assuming that's Elmax. I don't know what else it would be. It looks like he makes his pivots in-house too, I think, probably because he's got those little dots milled around the tooling there. I would guess he probably makes those. Yeah, very cool. So this knife is on bearings. Apparently some of his earlier Lamias... Is it Lamia or Lamia? I'm not sure. I usually say Lamia. I don't know if that's right. Apparently some of the earlier Lamias were washers, but now they are on bearings. And you could tell it's pretty, you know, you can tell it's not washers, but it's not that drop shut. And that was, I think, was the main thing that I was surprised about when I first handled this, is every knife I've handled in this tier are very smooth in the pivot. And I don't need my knives to be drop shut, but I liked smoothness in the pivot. Um, this just does not feel smooth. You can hear it. Hear that? I'll put it right next to the mic. That's just the detent ball rubbing on the tang, and you could just hear it. That's not a bad thing. It's just something I was surprised to see, and honestly, it's not enough to make me not want one of these. It's just I was just kind of surprised, you know. Now the detent though is really nice. The thumb flick is really good. Just the placement of the hole makes the thumb flick excellent. The reverse flick, really good too. Yeah, the hole placement is awesome. The ergos are so good. This is such a neutral handle. It just curves up gradually all the way up to the plunge grind and even a little farther. Like, you know, it's just one continuous curve all the way up to where the edge is, to where the edge begins. So you can put your hand as far up, as crazy, as far choked up as you want, or a little farther back, a little farther back, a little farther back, a little farther back, wherever you want. You're comfortable. You're extremely comfortable. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this knife is just the open real estate for your hand and how close up to the edge you can get without, you know, without it hurting the ergonomics at all. I think that's really cool. The blade shape I like too. You know, we have a continuous curve from the handle all the way down to the point. Just kind of like an arc here, a shallow arc all the way down to the tip. A little bit of straight edge, then up to the belly, which is dropped down. The belly comes up and meets the tip. It's a nice blade shape. I think it's going to be very versatile. You know, it'll be good at slicing. It'll be good at utility cuts. Just pretty good at everything. Speaking of that, as we're speaking out the blade, let's measure. Wow, 100,000s, really? Yeah. 100,000s, that is awesome. That is nice and thin. Let's get behind the edge. Wow, 8,000s. Gets a little thicker up here to the 13,000s. And then up here at the very tip, we're at 21,000s. So back here, where you're going to be doing most of your slicing with like cardboard and stuff, we're at 9,000s. That's awesome. Very thin behind the edge, and then gets thicker at the tip, which is what you want. You want a sturdy tip, and you want to be able to slice back here. That's perfect. This should cut really well. It's not a full flat grind, but very close. Yeah, I think this will cut really, really well. Plunge grind is interesting. It's not a notch, but it doesn't have to be. It's got separation from the plunge grind. Plunge grind starts to get thick right where my, let's see, are you seeing that? Yeah, right about there where my fingernail is, and then the edge is way out here. So you got the separation that you need when you're sharpening. That edge bevel has not thickened up at all back here. Just stays the same all the way up to the tip. This is what we want to see. It's a cool, you got the backspacer. It's a cool knife, man. It's simple in a way. I think it's just the design, though, that's simple. Not really the machining. The machining is intricate and cool. And seems like the attention to detail is definitely there. The design is simple, though, you know? No crazy curves or points or finger grooves or anything. It's just a very comfortable handle. A pretty average, you know, simple drop point blade. That comes together really nicely. Super, super nicely. I get why people like this a lot. I really do. I've heard people say that closed, it doesn't look great. I see what they're saying, how there's this kind of like little point coming out here, but I don't care what a knife looks like closed. I really don't. When it's closed, it's just sitting in my pocket. It's when it's open is when I'm using it. That's when you want it to be good. Ergonomics-wise, looks-wise even. I could care less what it looks like when it's closed. So that's just me. Perfectly centered, solid lockup, no detent lash or pivot movement or anything like that. Really nicely made. Lock bar relief cut out on the outside, but I don't think that'll hang up on your pocket seam. Let me try it. No, this clip works really well. Really, really well. This point is high enough off the surface of the scale that I think any pocket seam will fit in there. Even like a thick Carhartt pocket seam will easily fit that, I think. Not too much tension on it. It's just really pretty perfect. Flows well with the knife too. It kind of follows the curve of the handle. Looks real nice. This cutout for the lock bar is pretty large, but that just doesn't mean anything really. The one on my Rosie is pretty large too. It's kind of cool when you see really thin cut right here. It's just, for me, it's like, wow, how did they do that? That's pretty neat. But whatever, it really doesn't matter. It's just a looks thing. And like I said, my Rosie has a pretty wide one too. Let's get it out. Yeah, not quite as wide as the Lamia, but pretty close. So how does this compare with the Rosie? Let's put them out next to each other. Rosie's a little smaller, definitely. Rosie's got a different blade shape. It's still a drop point, but just different blade shape. Ergonomically, the Rosie is fantastic as well. I'd say just as good, if not maybe a little better. Just the handle's a little fatter and wider, so it kind of just fills out your hand a little better. Now the Rosie does a similar thing where you can get really nice and close up to the edge, but they have these grooves for you, which are fine because it's exactly where you want your hand to be, but you are confined to that spot, which it is the best spot to be, so I don't care. It's perfectly good with me. But, you know, you just have more freedom with this knife. You can hold it however you want it. It's going to be real comfortable. Which do I prefer? I'm partial to the Rosie. I think the Rosie is the perfect knife design. It's good in every single way. And I'm just a Rosie guy, you know. But ask someone else, they might say Lamia, you know. So just a personal preference thing. I'm going to get out my other heavy hitters. The Rask here. Definitely a bit longer. Where's my Cortex? I was just carrying that today. I don't know where I set it down. But here's an FSDI. Not mine, but it's being lent to the channel by a buddy. Look at these, man. These are some nice knives. These are some really nice knives. Some of the best. Some of the best knives. Can't beat that, though. As far as smoothness in the pivot, the Rask is the best I have ever tried. Bonkers. So yeah, I really like the knife. I think I would like one in the channel at some point. He does plain Jane handles a lot too. I think I would probably wait for one with some texture. I think that's what I would want if I bought one of these. Again, everything else I really like about it. I was surprised to see that it wasn't really as smooth in the pivot. I wish it was smoother, you know. It'd be cool if it just felt a little smoother. But, you know, again, it's not enough to make me not want to buy one of these. Let's check the weight real quick. We didn't do that. 3.5 ounces. Rosie is 3. Exactly. Cortex FSDI is pretty heavy, 4.2. And the Rask, 3.2. 3.6. So yeah, it's that's still pretty lightweight, but compared to the Rosie, it's a little heavier. Yeah, so there you go. That's about it, folks. That's the Lamia. Very cool knife. Please like the video before you head out. I'd appreciate it. I'll see you soon.